Just turn your radio inside.
Yeah.
Should I do them?
It just, I don't know why the computer locked up for some reason.
Well, if the computer is working in a minute, I will show some examples of what they're made. The way I did it in the end, they want you to explain everything, so that's what I did. I put everything on the big screen, every technique. I took like 15 minutes to explain a technique and do it for them, and then they would replicate that. And I really, this generation is really fast with that, they really pick it up fast. So it really worked. And yeah, now I need the examples.
Sorry.
Aha.
Thanks. Yeah, that's where we're. I'll show some examples. First up, yeah. This is what I did. The first week was introduction and designing on paper. The second week was the interface. I didn't have to learn anything, I just found my way. It's really an easy interface. And the basic of objects. And week 3 was all the properties and movements, built-in movements. And the fourth week I explained something about graphics and animation, mainly simple pixel art and how to animate in 2 frames. You don't need a lot of frames to make animations. And then some weeks of the event editor, really basic things. That's what I find really hard. And then a week of finishing up and then the presentations. We'll show some of the games I made. They're a bit like, you have to remember your own first games. This guy made secrets in it. This one is the nicest graphics, I think. It's really simple but really neat. A lot of them make things with coins somehow.
What age are the students?
There's some real nice animations further in the level, so I really want to get there.
Somebody's asking on the chat, how old are the kids who made this?
This is 12-year-olds, and some of them are 14, the oldest are 15. But most are 12 years old, and they're all boys somehow. Well. And a little bit of feedback. I did this in the end of the day, to last hours. And normally when I'm teaching history or art, at the end of the day, I get students who are either asleep or really out of control. Not in this case. They were really happy to be there and they wanted to learn new things all the time, like really hopping up and down in their chairs. And so it was really nice, and they were really proud when they were presenting it and showing to the classmates. And some of them actually carried on at home, downloaded the Newgrounds version of the Games Factory, and they might buy the real version one day. That's it. It was a bit jumbled up. Any questions?
Is this something you're doing again, or is it just something?
I was supposed to do it again, but we're a bit in financial trouble at the moment. So maybe next year, but not this year.
When you talk about design on paper, it's straight away. Would you sort of expand on
How to design it? Just the rules and some sketches of what it would look like. But it got out of hand really fast. Most of it was really violent and I didn't want that. So I skipped that the second time.
Question there.
You said you met for 8 weeks. Did you meet once a week or 5 days a week?
It's 2 hours a week for 8 weeks.
So twice a week, did you meet for 1 hour?
It's no, it's once a week, 2 hours. So the first hour I would explain some things, some techniques, and the next hour they would work on the game.
Did you assign homework at any point, or was
No,
it just
no.
classroom?
They would be really upset if I did that.
You say that the students didn't really pay much attention to the document that you wrote out.
Yeah.
Have you thought about producing some sort of interactive video?
Yeah, but that's actually what I did it myself, so I could record that and use it. But it just worked when especially with graphics. They really think it's really hard to make graphics, but it's really simple to make easy, simple graphics. So we just do it for them in 2 seconds, and they actually push them to try.
Are these standard students, or do they have any educational difficulties?
With creating games or in general? No. I did it 2 years ago at a special school for kids who got kicked out of every other school. Those were different kids. These are regular kids.
Did you go as far, or did any of the students have the opportunity to learn, for example, using variables so that different objects would give them a different score?
Some of them did. I really mainly focused on it as a creative thing, but some of them were pretty fast, and I could teach them using values at least. Most of them didn't. I find it really hard to, in 8 weeks, to grasp even the basics of the event editor.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next up we have Rich the Dude, Richard Knock, presenting his racing game.
Yes.
No, it's not. This might fail in this. I'll switch to another. Try and run it and make sure it's good. Oh, cool.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm Richard Knock, and today me and my friend
My name's Alan Porter. I'm not so much of a clicker myself. I do more kind of graphics and sound design. All the sounds that you'll hear in the game are all created by us. And we did have some music to put in there as well, but something wasn't working, so we've left some of that out. So mainly on graphics and sound. Richard is the one who's done this programming with it, so any questions really should go to him and any of us to me. So, yeah.
Okay, you may know me as that irritating gopher on the Daily Click, or Hagar Technologies. We wanted to create a racing game, and we also wanted to create a racing game which was all about scale. So a tight car is in scale to all the objects in the play area. At first we thought we was going to do this as an overhead game, but that's harking back to games like Micro Machines on the SNES or the Mega Drive, which this is kind of inspired by in some ways. So we decided to do it in isometric. Now it is a work in progress. There is some bugs. I've had to disable some parts of the code, but hopefully you can get an idea of just how far we've tried to push MMF. We'll do a short demo in a bit, but even in this demo with a limited amount of objects, in the runtime we've got over 1 gig of data. So it's quite big.
Yeah, to give you some kind of idea, each car has to have 360 degrees of animation, and then again it's got to be rendered for steering left and steering right. So that means each car is about 50 megabytes.
I think each car with all the animations is about 50 megabytes at the scale of working. The thing is, I don't actually know how well it will run on this computer. So. It takes quite some time to load as well.
It will be a bit choppy until we go around all the area, and then it should start to be a bit faster.
It's very choppy.
That's very choppy. It will speed up. If you were doing that start sound effect, it was me playing the stylophone. You've got a bit of loud sound here. Do you want me to turn it up?
Yeah, I think it's fine. This does run at a full 60 FPS on my laptop. And of course we've also, not only have we got sorting of the sprites on the Y dimension, we've also got support for odd-shaped objects and tunnels, such as the Toast Tunnel of Doom.
There we go. This one more. Oh, on the red one.
The chat room is asking, are you using a physics extension for this?
No. Currently we have got a car-to-car collision engine going using vectors, but it works about 90% of the time, and sometimes where the vector should add to a car, so it speeds up, sometimes it will subtract or add wrongly about 1 in 10 times. So currently I've disabled it, but there is no ready-made physics extensions used. It's all coded by ourselves. There is also, what we have got working is car-to-object collisions. So it actually finds the surface normal of the object it's colliding with and reflects it accordingly. Like what you do in GCSE physics, where you'd have an incident ray and a reflected ray. It's that type of idea.
Yeah, there is a detector that spins around the car, isn't there?
Yeah,
that hits it one side and it'll hit it another side. I'll point it at the screen, you can't see it. But it will hit it one side of the object and then go around and hit the other. And what that will do is it calculates the angle so you can find the tangents of that circle. And then from that you can calculate the angle at which the car has to bounce off.
If anyone's interested, it runs a lot nicer on my laptop. This is running quite a low FPS, I think. Yeah.
I was wondering, wouldn't it be smart memory-wise to remove the cars, the tires from the sprites and then position them accordingly alongside?
That probably would be a wiser option.
Have your memory to run further at least?
It would help some memory, yes. It does run well on my laptop and my desktop, but yes, I don't think this game's ever going to run on an Intel chipset-based computer, to be honest. But we are going to look into optimizing it, yes. And sorry, there's not many objects as well. It has been a brush to get it, even this finished for the convention. If everyone's also, I've just got my academic head on. I should have thanked the convention organisers at the beginning, which I forgot to do, for putting the event on. And I guess, are there any questions? Yeah.
What kind of modes have you got? I guess time trial, race.
There will be time trials, head-to-head, which is the micro machine styled, so many points to either player, and then when so many points are awarded, if player 1 or player 2 wins. There'll be a single player Grand Prix. Most of that's done as well for AI controlled cars. So there'll be time trial, head-to-head, and Grand Prix. We may look at doing online play as well. Depends how things go. Yeah.
Does this use the hardware actually really works on?
Yes, this is running on HWA. It does run at a steady 60 frames a second on a laptop. So, the standard non-hardware accelerated multimedia fusion ran out of steam quite some time ago. So, yes. Is there any other questions?
Will it be a commercial game?
We might try and sell it. It depends. I guess it depends how well things go. We also have plans for not only this kitchen level, but also garden levels and living room levels. So even just doing this one level has took a considerable amount of 3D modelling, because if you can draw it well. Not only is there objects around the table itself, but our whole point of the game, to try and keep the scale theme, if I don't drive off the edge of the table, is that around the table there's a typical kitchen, so there's a drawer with some cutlery in it and things. So we've tried to keep the, that's where most of the memory goes, is in all these backdrop objects around the table or the play area itself.
You don't see them at the moment, but we plan on extending the level so that you can drive around on the kitchen worktops and round across the sink or the sponge and stuff like that.
And hopefully have like rules going across from the kitchen table to the counter, so things like that.
We also want to try and do jumps as well. We haven't really done a lot of experimentation with that yet, but that's something we hope to do as well.
We may commercialise it. It really depends on development, I guess. Yeah.
I've got a couple of questions. The first question is, what was your motivation for creating the game? Because it appears it's probably not commercial, and whether it was just simply a learning exercise to see how players could push MNF2, for example. And the second question, which was, which graphical tools did you use to create the objects?
Both myself and Alan used TrueSpace, quite an old version, 3.2. Alan's the major graphics guy.
I do most of the modelling in TrueSpace 3.2. I can't really get my head around any of the later versions, but for what I do on this 3.2 is absolutely fine. You don't really need any more than that, I've found, for doing games.
The only other tools we've used are Audacity, which is free, the GIMP, which is free, and JASK Animation Shop, which is now free if you go to their website.
And for audio, I use Sonar Home Studio 6 for creating all the sounds that you hear.
And your original motivation for the
well, I used to be active in the Click community many years ago, and I just kind of drifted out of it about 6 or 7 years ago. And originally this started out as, I brought MMF2, I never used it, I brought it 2006. I was just like, I've got to use it for something. So let's just see how far I can push the HWA, the hardware accelerated version, before it falls over. So that was the only reason we made this game.
We just enjoy making games anyway, don't we?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Sorry,
what about height differences? Like a mountain road where cars can fly with?
There is a height, there is a Z dimension already. Like if you drive over a Cheerio, though I shouldn't call it that, a nondescript brand of cereal.
That's literally cool.
I can't find the control key. There is a bit of a offset on the Z. We do hope to hopefully do Mario Kart style jumps, so you can jump over objects, say a tin of corned beef or something. That's what we'd like to do in the future. Yeah. Any other questions? Well, thanks for listening, and cheers.
Okay, next up we've got Justin and Luke.
Try not to bombard everyone with stuff. So I'm Justin Clark. This is Luke. I'm going to talk while he does things with a computer. I'm a lecturer at Brunel University in Writing Games Design. Luke is one of my students. And we use MMF. I was going to talk a little bit about how we use MMF at Brunel to see if that interested you. I've got a second job in that I'm a senior designer at a company called Mediatonic. Mediatonic is a large but somewhat secret company in the UK. You've almost certainly played things that they've developed, but not necessarily recognised it. They generally make things for. There are interesting screens popping up behind me. I can see everyone's eyes. We have been using MMF at Brunel for about 4 years. I've not had a lot of contact with the Clickteam community. That's one of the reasons I'm here today, to try and reach out a little bit. We do use the forum resources quite a lot because MMF is so well supported. We use MMF in a very specific way to teach game design. We use it both at master's degree level and we use it at Bachelor of the Arts level as well. The master's degree has been running for 5 years. We use it because on a master's degree we get students coming from very, very different backgrounds. So we get people whose first degree might have been a computing degree, which is possibly quite skilled coders, but we also get people from arts backgrounds who have never touched software in their life. And the MMF, as you know, is incredibly easy to pick up. It lets my students immediately start making games and start exploring ideas for cool games. Now we are not particularly interested in students making very, very polished games, although some do, and in fact Luke, who is an MMF obsessive, like many in the room, has some quite well developed stuff. We tend to stick to things called ludic sketches, which is a little bit of a complicated way of saying proof of concept. It's not quite the same as proof of concept. Do I need the microphone up here a bit? I'm used to just sort of like speaking to the back row very loudly, so I keep forgetting that we've got a horde online. Are they complaining they can't hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry guys, out there in for me. So we use MMF to create things called ludic sketches. The idea of a ludic sketch is that it's a way of showing the core coolness of a game, why the mechanic works, why someone would want to play it. It's not an attempt to make the game, it could almost be equivalent to the tutorial of the game. We're not an arts degree. Well, we are an arts degree, but we're not an art degree, as in sort of drawing. So we're not necessarily too worried about the presentation of the game. We're very much interested in the way that mechanics make entertaining experience. And we've had a huge amount of success with this, and we've had a huge amount of success using MMF. We've got, I think, 60% of our MA graduates over 4 years are in industry jobs. And we use MMF to transition people between being guys and girls who want to make games but aren't necessarily very technical into people who are working in the games industry. this works incredibly well because there is a big difference when trying to get into the games industry between saying, look, I can make games, please give me a job. Really, I'm going to be fantastic at it, employ me. And saying, I can make games, please give me a job. Here are some games that I have made. And MMF allows you to do that. And I think, as I say, I'm new to the Click crowd. I don't know any of you very well. I've never posted on the forum, although I've been on the forum quite often. And I have to say, I think perhaps you forget just how awesome this piece of software is. The precursors of MMF, STOS and so forth, and the other games that are built, utilities that are built up to it, have all been very, very good. But MMF has transcended that and become a piece of software that enables absolutely anybody to make games in minutes. And when Jason wrote his book, Make Amazing Games in Minutes, I mean, that sounds like, it's a con, doesn't it? That sounds like a stupid title, Make Amazing Games in Minutes. That's just not going to happen, is it? But it turns out it's true. And I had no knowledge of MMF 4 years ago, as we were trying to look for software that we would use for the course. I field tested it, Game Maker, a few other things. It stands head and shoulders above all those. It's massively well supported, it's got an incredible community, it's got more online tutorials than anyone can read in a lifetime. And terrific games have been made with it. So I think from an almost outsider perspective here, I think you should make sure you all remember just how good it is. And it's very easy to get very excited about exporters and extensions, all those other very technical things. But at a fundamental level, MMF is a program that allows anybody to make amazing games in minutes. And that's just got to be celebrated and the word has to be spread. And from the perspective of my students, it's got a lot of people whose dream it was to work in the games industry. It's enabled them to get a mainstream games industry job with people like Lionhead, all sorts of IDOS associated people. We've got loads of people working at Supermassive on Little Big Planet 2. I mean, I've specifically got students who, as a result of MMF, ludic sketches, prototypes, shown to Supermassive executives, are now working on Little Big Planet 2 as a direct link. I think I'm going to, because I know everybody is much more interested in what's going on behind me, whatever it is. I've never seen this thing yet. I wanted to be surprised, so I'm going to turn you over to Luke. If anyone's got any questions about games education, about transition from being a person who works in MMF into the games industry, I'd be very, very happy to answer those. Or more reaching questions about games academia in general, I'm quite happy to wax philosophical. But I think probably Auto-Scroller is calling us. So I'm going to turn over to you. Do you want this in the...
yeah. Anyone here? So my project is called Auto-Scroll Anthology, and it's for my third year at Brunel. It's a 4-game project, and as the name suggests, it's all based around auto-scrolling. 4 games all share this one defining mechanic, but then each of them utilise it differently to produce different varying effects. To go to a basic screen. So I made 4 games, Robo-Scroll, so Noise of the Colour Dimension, Teal and Purple Project Auto-Scroll, and Legends of Auto-Scrolling. I'll show you my first game. Robo-Scroll is an ability shifting game. Your character is locked, so they can't move left or right, but you can always use their abilities. So if I show you the first level. So right now, all your character can do is jump. And it starts off very basic, but as the game progresses, you get more abilities and you have to switch from them. And right now, all you can do is pretty much evade enemies, But because of this, because of the linearity, I know what abilities the player will have, so I can design better levels around this. Also, I just realised that the screen resolution is really bad. Yeah, but yeah. So then we go into the second level, and now I have the ability to switch between smashing objects and jumping. So that enemy goes upwards, I can't jump over it, so I go jump and smash through it, jump and smash, then you smash through these enemies. But the ability to smash, even though you can go through objects, you're still limited because you can't actually fall on spikes still. So, you know, keeping this in mind, I can always design, like this bit here, I can always design around these parts and hinder the player still, and produce a you know, a fun kind of game. And then in the third, you have the ability of shield. So you can shield upward or in front of you, so you have to jump and shield and smash. And it's all a very rhythmic kind of memory test, memory game really, like the old Mega Mans, like some of the levels you'd have to remember. Yeah, I mean, I find it fun, so that's something. Yeah. And then in the final level. And now they have the ability to shoot shields away, because with shields you can't actually go smash through the enemies because you'll just take damage. So then it adds kind of a new element, because of course since there are 4 abilities, I couldn't really have like a rock, paper, scissor thing, because of course there's 4 items, so I had to literally substitute this as, this would literally inform one of the other powers, and then that's how I got to this. And that was Robot Scroll. Yeah. And my next game is, so Nigel in the Colour Dimension. This game is quite similar to the one that was shown earlier, Inverted, but it's kind of times by 4 the amount of work you have to do. So in this game, instead of controlling your character, you control the environment. So anything that's blocked, you can interact with, but anything that's like wireframe, you'll just simply fall through it. So you have the ability to switch like the environment on and off, which I quite thought was quite clever.
So you're changing the colours in the bottom right-hand corner?
Yeah. Well, as for actual any code, most of it's very slapdash together, so none of it really, I can't get really hurt because I haven't programmed it yet. But there we go. But I can also design bosses around this. So you have the ability to shoot, and then you'll have this boss, and you've got to keep up with it. But it'll, I haven't programmed it yet, but it'll shoot like different coloured missiles at you that, of course, are fine when they're not activated. But yeah, and that's my second game. Justin, you need help.
Yes, you need help.
Yeah, 2-player game. I have no idea who you're going to be though.
What do I need to do?
You stand there. I'll do the first level. I don't need.
Standing still, I can do quite well.
Yeah. Okay. So my third game, I wanted to do a co-op game. So I did a game called Teal and Purple Project Auto Scroll, and it's a co-op game that you have to help each other. So one of them is the big one, and one of them is the small one. So you have like certain situations where the other character can't go, and it's all very.
This isn't feeling very co-op at the moment because I'm standing here like a lemon.
You can help in the second level. This is just so I know I can get to the second level without you messing it up. But yeah, so the smaller one can jump on the big one, and yeah, and there's gonna be like bosses based around this, and I thought it was quite fun.
I think you're going to have to explain this a bit more, Luke, because I have no idea what's going on.
You'll understand.
Okay.
You'll get it in the second level when we get powers, because that'll be cooler. But yeah, and if anyone wants to know, I did all the art in Paint because it's a poor man's Photoshop. Because you don't need
Very poor man's way.
It's free, yeah. But so this is bad because you need to control this, but you beat that
you
one.
don't reckon I can, is what you're saying.
No. Well, in later on you get
I have
shield.
no idea what I'm doing, or even what controls I'm supposed to be pressing. So
This is why I opened the MFI file instead of the EX. Where is it? Later game. Okay. So you're this.
yeah,
And control and shift, I think.
okay.
Yep.
Which I've just pressed, so that's completely interesting.
There's, yeah, so your arrows, shift and control. Yep.
Okay.
We're ready. So later on you get more abilities. The bigger block is now able to shield stuff and the small one can shoot. So if we come across, so here I
can shoot.
Shield this laser, so just you can go over and press control by the switch. Go, just go,
I'm
jump.
on your head.
Flip the switch.
With
Yay!
hurrah.
And I can't get up now.
You're lagging behind.
I am. I can't get up. This is bad design.
I blame the designer. I think you need to restart the MO. That was quite funny anyway. How are we doing for time? Because I'm aware that we're sort of... Oh, okay.
Okay. Do you want to switch to another game? We'll switch to another game.
I think you should probably show your last game.
I'll show my last game. My biggest and prettiest game, Legends of Auto-Scrollia, which is a 4-player co-op RPG auto-scrolling mayhem, except I've only done it so there's 2 players. But
you're going to be expecting me to do something again.
Yeah.
You know how that works out.
This is simple. You're a fighter, so arrow keys again, shift to control. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
I'm on it. Like I'm a professional, you know.
Yeah. He's a professor. Okay, so you're
I'm not a professor.
You're gonna be. So yeah, it's a very cute, very visually pleasing little RPG game.
Can I drink the beer?
You can't drink the beer.
That sucks.
It's ale anyway. And you get little power-ups where you beard up, which I thought was funny, and then your power increases.
Woohoo.
It also affects the HUD, part of the display. But yeah, typically when one would get a power-up, it would only be to them, but since I literally made this in 2 weeks, I literally just made it so if one of you gets a power-up, the other one gets a power-up. But there are also other characters.
Beard buddies.
We're beard buddies. Yeah. And you've got a bigger beard, and now I've
Whoa.
got dynamite, so... Because tying dynamite to an arrow is very safe.
Might hit you? No.
You can't hit me. Why would I program that? I need you to do something else. But yeah, it's an well. I use the term RPG
it's
as
pretty funky. These are all new to me actually. I just.
I'd use the term RPG as loosely as calling Ocarina of Time an RPG, but yeah.
You can call anything an RPG.
Yeah. Yeah, this is one of my visually pleasing
4Xs
levels.
can be RPGs if you're in character.
But yeah, you fight monsters as you do in most games.
Sweet, I've got a big sword now.
You do.
Which doesn't work.
Yeah, it throws. Move to the left and then back. But yeah, that's my game.
All my swords working here. Right, we'll leave it there. We're on time, which probably means I can't take questions, doesn't it?
No, you can take some questions.
Any questions?
Questions either about games academia, games industry, beards. I think beards is perhaps top of the list there.
I'm going to stand by the mic.
Question for Justin. What you mentioned that some of your students, or sounds like many of your students, go on to work in the games industry on a professional basis, which is very impressive. Is that generally their motivation for going on your course? That that's what they want to do, or are there other aspects as well, and things they can learn that are useful in other careers?
So we, the course is virtually split into 2 in that we, so we have a theory module, and the theory module will study games as much as one would study literature. So slightly difficult to explain if you're not familiar with things, but close readings and critical analysis of games as texts. We've got a very firm belief that games are a very strong part of our modern culture, and they're just as worth studying as any other work of literature is. Now, studying games of text also lets you understand them, and a proper understanding of games lets you design them. We also have a design module. The design module teaches non-technical design, but using MMF to sort of express ideas. Once again, understanding of design feeds into an understanding of games. Those two things go across each other. I would suggest, in answer, that's the sort of context for the answer to your question. The majority of people who come on the course are looking for industry jobs. I would say about 90%. Some of the people who come on the course are just interested in studying games for the sake of studying games. It is still a properly academic master's degree. A lot of what we would call soft skills are also taught along with those harder skills like teamwork, collegiality, presentation skills, communication skills, all of which are very, very transferable to a whole range of other places. But mostly people are doing the course because they want an industry job. Yeah.
Thank you. Just a quick comment from Luke. I think we're all sick of angry birds, so I reckon bearding up is going to be the next big thing.
I think bearding up could be the next big thing, actually.
So it's a good power.
I can see it being shouted on buses and bearding up.
Beard power.
Actually, there's people at the back with beards. So.
Yeah. It's already started.
You said that your students, they create games with MMF.
That's
and
right.
They go into a company like EA or something like that.
Yeah.
So we make these games. I'm just interested. I mean, we all know MMF allows us to create games very quickly. But if I created something in MMF and I went into a company and said, "This is what I created," they sat me down in front of the C++ compiler coming to make a game.
Absolutely, and those are a coding job is not the sort of job that any of our students are likely to go into. MMF is a wonderful thing, but let's face it, it's not going to particularly teach you how to code in C++. What we use MMF for is to allow people to communicate the fact that their games ideas will work in practice. And that lets you transition into a design post or a writing post, or perhaps a production post. Production posts often involve factors of design now as well, and quite often lead design and production in smaller companies are combined. So for the mainstream industry, a knowledge of MMF is not in itself very useful. It's only useful in that it can show what you can do. That's not to say, though, that a knowledge of MMF can't let you just make games for yourself and publish them. In fact, it's massively powerful for that. But if you go into EA and say, look, I'm brilliant at MMF, they're going to look at you somewhat oddly and not be very interested. If you go into EA saying, look at this incredible game I've made, it happens to have been made in MMF, and that would be a different story.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sweet.
Okay, thank you. And last but not least, Paul Boland, after a massive gap, here to update everyone on his projects.
Okay, I have another flash drive. Flash drive? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Check it, brothers. Got the extensions?
There's no extensions.
Okay, cool.
Well, first, it's fantastic to be back at the Clickteam convention. It's been 4 years since I was here, so. I have to admit, I had some apprehension about giving this talk, for the simple reason that the caretaker was announced in 2002, and now it's 9 years in development. It's, well, I'll come out and say it, it's not complete. But there are only 3 elements of the game left to fix, and then it's done. So we are nearly there. So those people who were at Clickteam Convention 2007, graphically, not a lot has changed. But back in 2009, my creative drive basically dried up. I was forcing myself to work on the caretaker game to finish it. And that was a bad thing to do, because every time I had to implement a new feature or fix a bug, I was just doing it the quickest way possible. As a result, the code was a complete and utter mess when finally my creativity kicked back in. And that was November last year. I sat down with this and I said, right, 9 years, too long, way too long. I remember 2002 talking about this, and I said it'd be done in 2 months. Definitely way off the mark there. So I said, right, I'm going to get this done one way or another. I spent 2 days looking at the code that was there, and all that time that I forced myself to work on the game, it was dreadful. The movement system alone had 15 counters controlling it. And I tried to make heads and tails of what the hell I had created, and I just couldn't understand where I was going. So I decided I would just scrap all the code in the game and restart programming it from scratch. For the past 10 months, I have worked solidly on this game. It has become my key project. I have worked on other games in the time, but they are no longer prime projects with the caretaker being in secondary position. The caretaker is now the prime project with them being in secondary position. And I have done more on the programming side of this game in 10 months than I did in the years I worked on the game prior. So I will show you the game now running as it stands today. And what the difference here is, in 2007, when I showed this game for the first time, the only thing that was working was the movement system. You could move around the hotel, you could open doors, and that was basically it. Now you can do that, of course, but you can also collect keys, you can collect cards. The battle system is in a playable fashion. Random spectres appeared throughout the hotel, and just about over a week ago, before I started to burn off the freebie discs for this convention, which has a copy of the game for everyone, I brought my sister Julie in. I said to her, I need 10 minutes just to play this game, make sure it's working. We sat down. I was expecting to just go through the features with her. I didn't think the game was a fun game to play, because I had been playing it on my own over and over again. I mean, I didn't think the core element was there to make it a fun game to play. We spent 50 minutes playing the game, and she loved it, and that kind of gave me a boost coming here, because I was really dreading what people were going to think today. So I'll show you this game now as it stands today. Now, just while this is loading, there is a table at the back of the room with freebie discs for everyone. It has a copy of the game, as you're going to see here. It has a whole load of other stuff on it. Aaron, the airline I flew over to the UK with, gave me hell about bringing it on board. So I would appreciate if everyone could take it this, because I don't want to bring them home. Now, as I said at previous conventions, that warning is only there because this is a horror game. There is no adult content in the game at all, and as a matter of fact, I wouldn't have a problem with kids playing the game as such. Think you can beat me? Think again.
Now, I got a lot of feedback from people at Clickteam Convention 2007 about implementing new features into the game. Some of them have been implemented, others haven't been implemented yet. Chris Carson, I think, gave me some tips on how to improve this main menu. They are on my work menu, but they are not done here yet. But other features have been implemented, as you'll see. So the game can be played from 1 to 4 players. It'll happily host a single-player game, even as it stands now. Each player has to enter their name, so I'm just going to type in some words here. Each player picks a color. And each player receives a random number. Each player can also change the respond key. The respond key is what you press when the caretaker's talking to you or you need to interact with the environment. You can also change the control keys for moving around the hotel. Once everything is set up here, you're ready to play.
Welcome to the Chateau Hotel. I see you've all come as a group. I guarantee you will not leave. Friends will become foes and must face each other in battle as well as whatever I choose to throw at you. You have one spectre and one spectral event card as well as 2 keys. You have till midnight to reach my lair in the attic of this hotel. There you will battle me for your very soul. I wish you luck, but it's a futile gesture. Think you can beat me? Think again. Let the fun begin.
So, one of the changes from Clickteam Convention 2007 is we now have a rotating dice. At that convention, the dice was static with the numbers just changing on it. Someone at the convention, can't remember who it was, said the dice should rotate, so the dice now rotates. The game setup, I've got it set up for 4 players, so there's our 4 players there. Each player's box area down here describes the player status. So the skulls represent the player color. The number represents the player number. This third box is empty in all these. This indicates whose turn it is. As you can see, it is currently player 1's turn. And the bottom indicates how many keys each player is carrying. We also have this area here, spectral event cards. Now in the caretaker game there are 4 card types. There are spectre cards, which are ghosts and ghouls. Spectral event cards, which cause stuff to happen, either in battle or in the hotel itself. We also have objects of power, which are related to phantoms, and we have phantom cards as well. At the moment, the phantoms are one of the things that need to be implemented, so they're not working, but everything else is in play. So you can examine your cards here by clicking the examine button, and it shows you the cards that this player has. Now this player currently has a Skelby card which has a power level of 7, and he's carrying a spectral event card called Keyboard of Doom, which can change how stuff happens in the game, gameplay can come in. So you can play your spectral event card if it's a playable card.
Special event cards fall into 3 categories. There are those that can be played in the hotel, there are those that can be played in battle, and there are those that can be played in both the hotel and battle. This card can be played in the hotel because the play button is active. But if you want to play your special event card, you have to play it before you roll the dice. No, I'm not going to play the card here, I'm just going to get the game going. So, when it's your turn, you just hit your respawn key. There we go. Roll a 5, and off we go. So your goal at the moment is to explore the hotel, build up a fighting force of spectres and special event cards for use in battle, and then to get a phantom. Now, the phantoms play a big part in the game. When a player gets a phantom, his goal then changes. His mission then becomes to kill all the other players in the game and to kill all the phantoms in the hotel. There are 6 phantoms in total in the hotel. Once a player has achieved that goal and he is the only player left in the game and his phantom is the only phantom left in the game, then his goal is only one thing left. Head up to the attic and fight the caretaker in battle. If you win that, you win the game. If you don't, tough luck. So, just keep this going. Now, if some of the other stuff that is in play, and as I said, you'll all get a copy of this game on the disc at the back of the room there. There's some hotel environment elements put in. For example, if you're in a room which has a window, you'll see some things going on outside the hotel. There's also keys and stuff in play, and I'm just going to see now when the battle going. So we've opened the door. That has cost us a key here. It costs a key to open the door. Here we go. We are now in this corridor. There's still nothing here for us to interact with, so we can just keep going. Let's turn. If I can't initiate a battle through the hotel, I will run it manually, but I'd rather get into one on the spy because you can see it working much better that way. Which turn is it? 4. Okay, here we are. We're in a battle. We have a spectre here. They appear randomly throughout the hotel. They do not appear in a room where there is a player. So if you stay in a room, well, you won't win the game, but you won't encounter any spectres. So the only way you can get into battle is by going through a door into a new room which has a spectre in it. Now, for the first time, because this was not working at Clickteam Convention 2007, this is the battle system. Now, we have the players stuff up here, players here, and we are fighting Moat. He's a bog demon, and he has a power level of 18, and his current attack power is 18. He has no cards, no keys added to his attack at the moment, so that's 0. Moat is carrying 557 keys compared to your 2, so it's not looking too hopeful for us to win this battle, but you never know. The first step in doing a battle is to roll this dice here. Now this again, you just hit your respawn key. So this battle is going to last for 2 turns. Now, Moat has a power level. He is a demon within the hotel. You are just a human. You don't have any powers to fight a demon. So your very first move in the game is to play your Spectre card. Now this player has Punk Crow. Punk Crow has a power level of 13. So we're losing now at the moment though. Now Moat is taking his turn. He is playing 1 key, and he's only going to get half the value of that key. Now you cannot get half of one, so he's going to get 0 keys on this turn. So he has lost a key. He had 557, he now has 556. He played 1 key. It was reduced by half, so he scored nothing. His attack power is unchanged. Now, the battle has come down to 1. This is the final round in the battle. So it's time for us to play. Now, we've only got 2 keys to play, but we could actually win this. To pick your key, you just hit your respawn key. Now, we don't have 80 keys to play. We have 2. So on this turn, we are going to play all 2 keys. Now, this dice here controls what effect will be added to them 2 keys that are coming into play. So we hit the respawn key again. We're getting twice 2, so we will be playing, we'll get 4 keys, 2 times 4. 4 will be added here, and our power level increases. We now have an attack power of 65. Now, he's playing 20 keys times 10, that's 200. We're going to lose. So it's your 65 against his 3,618. The battle is over. You have lost. Next player's turn. As you go around the hotel, there are cards for you to collect. Cards will range from one of the first 3 sets. That's specters, objects of power, and special event cards. You will not get phantom cards because they are not implemented at the moment. You'll also find keys to collect. You can enter battle systems. At the moment, players cannot battle players because that's related to the phantom system. But the game is in a playable format, as I said. And as I said, I thought me and Julie would spend 10 minutes going through this game, and we got a full 50 minutes play over, and she thought it was great. I was really pleased with it. This will be my last time talking about the caretaker at a Clickteam convention, for one simple reason. There is only 3 things left to do. That is, implement the spectral event cards in battle, which is already underway on my computer at home. The build you have here, spectral event cards, cannot be played in battle. The second thing is implement the phantoms, and then the final thing is implement the caretaker. Now, one thing that has, I'm just going to end this to turn off the music. One thing that has come through really well for me on reprogramming this game from scratch is that the code is much more neater. As I said, the movement system before had 15 counters controlling it. It now has 2. The caretaker was going to use a sub-application. I no longer need to do that because I have found an easier way to implement it into the game without adding code to every single room to do it. I do see light at the end of some of this. So the question now is, when is it out? And I'm not going to give a release date because I've given them before and they've come and gone and they've never been hit. What I'm going to give you is a time frame. Sometime within the next 12 months, this game will either be out or it will have defeated me. And what I mean by that is I have encountered problems creating it. I've hit code that doesn't want to execute, active objects that don't want to be recognized. I think there's so much going on in the game that it's kind of fighting back against me at times. But there is no way there's more than a year's work done to finish it. So either I will finish the game and release it, or I'll hit a problem that I can't get past. So all I'll say to you is keep watching the forums, and if 2012 is the end of the world, it's the caretaker that's going to do it. Any questions?
Let's say, worst case scenario, you can't get past something and something doesn't work. Would you consider, instead of just scrapping all this work, which is this work, sure, would you consider cutting it down a bit, cutting it back a bit, or would you prefer it just to be either the full vision or just not release it?
I've never actually considered that, but if I was to cut it back, what would I take out? I mean, there are... Every time, I have encountered some problems. I encountered a problem with the battle system, which involved getting objects to recognize a collision between objects. And MMF wasn't executing the code at all, no matter how many times I reprogrammed. So I had to create a workaround. Instead of testing for a collision between objects, I was testing to make sure their X and Y coordinates were within range of each other. So every time I do encounter a problem, I am trying to work around it. But if I did encounter a problem which took the game down, I don't know what I would do at that point. But if that happened, if the game hit an impasse, I would release the source code and just let everyone have it.
Paul, do you work on this entire
Yeah.
Do you think maybe we should get Julie involved?
Julie doesn't know MMF.
I know, but before you, at each stage, you found the feedback very helpful. Perhaps you should get involved more to give you a bit more incentive to carry on.
Well, when we played the game there last week, it actually surprised me because Julie said to me, I said to Julie, when was the last time you played this game? And she said to me, never. 9 years in development, she'd never played the game. I couldn't believe it. So it was a real eye-opener for her. And our first time seeing the game, she gave me lots of feedback on it. She actually suggested some areas that could be improved, mainly with the battle system, which I have very much agreed with and have taken on board.
Over 9 years, and so you might be demonstrated at some point. Have you thought about handing out to testers for testing throughout those 9 years so they can offer constructive criticism, feedback?
Well, as I said, November last year was when I started into this game really big time on the programming side. And in the past 10 months, it's been getting everything back up and running. Beta testers, the only problem I have with doing that is the game size is huge, and I don't have the white space to put it up. But I wouldn't be opposed to the idea.
So I've got one more question. The game seems quite complex to play. I understand that people who download it, they might find it very difficult to understand. Is there any sort of interactive tutorial on how to play it?
There is a full PDF document of the instructions of the game included with the game and on the disc, the freebie disc.
Can you show the intro again? I was outside and missed it. You know, I'm waiting another year to see the caretaker himself.
Okay.
Let's do it. Uh-oh.
That might actually be removed from the full game when it's released due to the content not really being of adult content. It's just that it's a horror gen mechanism.
Just longer if you got. Sorry? How much more?
No, I'm nearly finished.
There I am. That's how I talk to him.
Thank you, Greg. If anyone has any complaints with the game, the caretaker's sitting down there.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to take a break for lunch now for an hour, but if you can head outside to the picnic benches first, we're just going to do the group photograph while there's still some daylight. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, the executables are working on
Is it your turn now?
I don't know, maybe.
Yes.
Maybe yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
Are we happy with this?
I'm hungry, but we've got to go outside to the group later.
No.
We're waiting for you, Tom.
I should.
Just like we were waiting for you.
Are you going like this to a group?
Yeah.
Tommy!
You wish.
You wish.
You wish. I don't like presentation.
You like the back to it. It sounds about right for you.
Shall we go?
It took me about 3 talks to finish it, but I don't finish it.